Guys, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. I hate the New 52. Okay, now, don't get me wrong. The New 52 has turned out some pretty decent to pretty great content in the time it's been out. But I haven't gotten beyond number 3 in a fair amount of the titles simply because of these 3 factors. Either they failed to give me a reason to care about the characters present, they didn't have any form of understanding of how the characters they featured were supposed to work, or they were dead on arrival. I'm happy to say that it wasn't usually that last one, but oh my god, when they missed, they didn't just miss. They hit people in the stands, behind them. Case in point, Red Hood and the Outlaws. It's difficult to really talk about this title because just about everyone has already gone over it. Even people of greater fame than myself have been hesitant to talk about this thing for that exact reason. And yet, here we are. So let's hit the pages of Red Hood and the Outlaws Volume 1 and see if this book does anything that doesn't suck.
Tougher than Cat's shield, heavier than Thor's hammer, smarter than Tony Stark, even mixed with Bruce Banner. Quicker than the Flash, darker than Batman's past, hotter than the heat vision of Superman days of future past. Comics and comedy, nostalgia, brutal honesty, the web series you wanna see, iconic phenomenally. Maybe just a reminder of what you like to see, so check the comics coming at you on your computer screen. This is iconic, phenomenally phenomenons, whatever planet you're rocking on, whatever channel you're talking on. Iconic, phenomenally phenomenons, whatever planet you're rocking on, whatever channel you're talking on. Iconic, phenomenally phenomenons, whatever planet you're rocking on, whatever channel you're talking on. Iconic, phenomenally phenomenons, whatever planet you're rocking on, whatever channel you're talking on. What?
Starting with the first issue, the cover is meh. The only thing I find particularly annoying about it is the Bat logo in the title. They're just exploiting a minimal connection to Batman to use his branding and build up interest. Here you go, sir, the new Red Hood book. Needs more Batman. But, sir, Batman has nothing to do with this book. More Batman! Send in the next one. Alright, sir, I think you're gonna love the new Wonder Woman script. More Batman! Make her more like Batman and we'll print it! But... angst, darkness, graphic violence, people will love it! More Batman is what people want to see. On to the first page, and... okay... let's just take a minute for this one. This page is simultaneously too detailed and not detailed enough. There's so much clutter on what should really be a totally simple page that it's almost headache-inducing. But then the faces of these guards and the clothes on Roy just look unfinished. And now let's move on to the other problem here. A continuing problem throughout the series, in fact. The narration captions. I have said it before and have no problem repeating myself. This is lazy. For crying out loud, as you'll come to find out, this comic is short and nearly everything following this scene is unimportant. Why bother narrating this crap to us when you can just craft a story with it? However, I especially love the introduction. DC Comics proudly presents... We're proud of this piece of work of art, we swear! Then there's the title. I fought the law and kicked its butt. No. No, you didn't. But we'll come back to that. So, on to the next pit. No. I refuse to accept this. There's awesome comic book ridiculousness, and then there's just outright stupidity. Where would he even get a suit like that? So Jason shoots Roy free and gives him his bow, then bullcrap! They were surrounded on absolutely all sides with guns trained on them from every direction. There is absolutely no way they got out of that looking like anything but Swiss cheese. Also, let's pretend for a moment that I know nothing about either of these characters. How do they know one another? Better yet, why are they friends? Answers! There are none. Also, let's just take a moment to analyze the dialogue here. The only reason I'm here is because if anything happens to you, that would make me the worst former sidekick ever. Okay, we're going to compare and contrast these two real quick. Jason Todd got killed, returned, and went on a murderous rampage in Gotham as a dangerous crime lord on the rise. Roy Harper did pot once or twice, kicked it and redeemed himself, got back into the superhero game, and wound up becoming a somewhat respectable, if a bit abused, superhero and member of the Justice Society, and also a single father. Yeah, you're right. Jason was so much better than Roy. What were we thinking? Now, just brace yourself, because these next few pages are gonna hurt. For those of you who weren't smart enough to avoid this title and anything related to it, I give you the New 52's Starfire. Starfire has single-handedly wiped out a group of tanks. Okay, while I don't doubt that she could do this, though not as easily as they're making it seem like she did, I do have to say that one thing about this is bugging me. Why is she standing like that? She had to strike one of the most provocative poses possible to wipe out a few tanks. And no, I'm not even going to talk about her outfit. We all already know that this is probably her worst costume to date. So let's just move on with our story. In fact, hey, let's check out more of this dialogue. Is she with you? With us, yeah. But yeah, she's been with me. I can list 100 or so different ways that pisses me off, but you can probably list 1,000 or so let's just move on. Also, I have a question. Why didn't you just have her fly in, bust Roy out, and fly away? Was all this wanton destruction really necessary? I swear, Scott Lobdell is the Michael Bay of comic books. If he's given the chance to blow something up, he's going to take it. That's the kind of story we're in for here, people. Shallow characters with a ton of flash. And now we're at the arguable, most notorious bit in the entire comic. As such, I'm going to break this down very slowly. Follow along now, kids. We cut to Starfire posing at the beach because, I don't know, testosterone or something. Roy and Jason are catching up with more of that riveting Lobdell dialogue. Aren't you a little worried about what happens when she finds out about you and her ex? You mean on account of the times I tried to kill him and how Grayson tried to send me away for life more than once? Unfortunately, it is a non-issue. Now listen carefully, because what I'm about to show you has been known to cause the following: confusion, blind rage, uncontrollable vomiting, and even convulsion. You have been warned. Turns out Tamaranians don't see us humans as much more than sights and smells, and they have a terribly short attention span about all things Earth. Seriously, when you get a chance, ask her about the gang you used to hang with. Nothing. I'm still not old enough to drink. All jokes aside, let me just stop to point something out. This statement, just this statement, is the entire reason I hate the New 52. This statement pretty much represents the majority of the reboot. Zero respect for what came before it, preferring to just forget about the decades of greatness that we got in the past. If you think I'm reading too much into this, then I'm sorry, but I don't think you and I have anything more to talk about. Period. It is an insult to people who were fans of those years of continuity before it, and is also a totally lazy means of trying to sweep dozens of already established plot holes under the rug. Some people hate Scott Lobdell because of his lack of respect for women. While that doesn't help him at all, this is the statement that made me write him off completely and made me not want anything further to do with him. And to make matters worse, we still have a whole volume to get through, so let's just get this over with. Jason is called off by someone with black text boxes that I assume are supposed to be ominous. This is Essence. As far as I know, she's a new character, and oh my god, she's actually wearing clothing. I'm shocked. She decides to warn Jason of some sort of conspiracy, and here's how that goes. There have been several murders recently, where organs have been taken from living bodies. Seriously, you come all the way here to regale me with an urban legend? There's more, Jason. With you there always is, Essence. Don't fall off your broomstick on the way home. These missing organs were removed years before the victims died. There were no incisions. But that can only mean the Untitled, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get it? Well, funny thing about that, neither did I! Something that might just be a me thing here is basically the difference between mystery and feeling like you missed an issue, or an entire year's worth of a series. You have to build up the mystery. Now don't get me wrong, that bit about there being no incisions, that's genuinely intriguing. But attaching a name to this as if it's something we should already know kind of makes me scratch my head. You can't just throw a mystery at us halfway through the comic and say, here, figure this out. The comic is treating us like we already know details here and should put on our thinking caps to reach the conclusion. Well, spoilers, in this entire first volume, no conclusions are reached. And immediately after that, the ultimate insult from this comic. Starfire doesn't remember anyone in the Teen Titans by name, and then she just decides to... hang on, I have to restrain myself for this one. I'm not even going to line by line this, I'm just going to sum it up. It is that insulting to all of my senses. Starfire offers completely out of nowhere to sleep with Roy. Why is this happening? Because she's free to do what she wants, when she wants. In other words, Scott Lobdell is a despicable human being who doesn't understand the difference between an actual independent woman and the male fantasy of an independent woman. And his definition of independent woman is... And I will remind you that I absolutely hate that word in all its forms. Moving on. Jason continues his little conversation with the exposition fairy here, and we're thrown more and more details as if this should be something familiar to us. From there we move on to Chicago, where a random guy is surfing the internet and happens across a picture of Starfire that some random kid on the beach took. Which brings me to a new question. Why the crap are you in public? One of your group is orange, and another one of you I'm pretty sure is on several wanted lists. So now we see Starfire and Roy in bed with one another. And Jason decides to pack up and get gone to deal with his little crisis that's apparently going down. He heads to some place called the Well of the Allcast, where a crap ton of people are dead somehow. Dialogue! I'm sorry you sent me away. I'm sorry I let you. Boy, you are not welcome here. Leave at once. No! Alright, kid, clearly we're having some sort of misunderstanding here. I'm supposed to banish you and you're supposed to get the heck out. No, I'm not going! Leave so this can be an important plot point later. Nothing you say will convince me to go. Please? Alright, bye. Jason really has bad luck with mentors, doesn't he? Anyway, the issue wraps up with Jason suddenly surrounded by a number of reanimated corpses naming all around. Like the boss Lobdell is trying so hard to convince us he is. I especially love how the continuation box at the bottom says, "To be explained," instead of continued. Way to make your audience feel stupid, guy. That was rough. Look, people have told me that this thing gets better further down the line, so I guess the only way to see for ourselves if that's true is to take a closer look at the rest of this. After I go take a break to cool down. Oh, sorry, we're back. Alright, this thing isn't getting any less abysmal. If I keep things up in this format, I'll be brain dead by the end, so let's just lighten this up. The cover of number 2 is really boring, honestly. There's a lot of it, and each character is once again showcasing their unique traits and abilities, but the cover doesn't really leave me asking any questions. It's just an action scene, nothing more. Nothing intriguing, nothing captivating, nothing special, so yeah. The first page sees Jason Todd with a number of weapons trained on him while he stands there flatly. Actually, he said this was a year and a half ago. Maybe he was just hearing about the plans for him in this reboot, and this is his reaction. Before I was beaten to death by a psycho named the Joker and resurrected for reasons I still don't understand. Okay, I'm calling it. Lobdell didn't actually read the story that brought Jason back, did he? Yes, I know that technically involves a crisis, and the New 52 likes to pretend that none of the crises ever happened, but that would imply that the only source material pulled from is the animated movie, and there are two problems with that. One, that movie was better than this series will ever be. And two, that movie actually explains it right out the gate. Sure, maybe I should be happy about coming back to life. But from my point of view, I got a bad deal, and I'm gonna make everyone else suffer for it. Ladies and gents, our hero! And just to add insult to injury, the title of this comic? Shot Through the Heart, and Who's to Blame? If Bon Jovi were in his grave, he'd be rolling over in it. Repeatedly. So, moving on through the next page. Wait! This flashback is taking place right after Jason was revived? Bullcrap! Jason was still essentially a kid when that happened. Are you telling me that in the span of less than 2 years, he became a full-fledged adult, underwent intense training that puts him almost on level with Batman, and somehow procured an entire arsenal as well as numerous other resources? This is another one of my problems with the New 52. There is zero sense of time in this thing. It was so rushed and haphazardly put together that time is constantly getting bent and screwed around with. Let's just get back to the dialogue. Bow before your superior, man-child. Or, just child. I might, if I ever meet one. Ha ha, you little brat, you got beat up by the Joker. Still your machismo. Hey, do you want proof that Lobdell has no freaking idea what he's doing? Seriously, Talia, what am I supposed to do with that lump of rage? Admittedly, Jason is complicated, Duckra. He was recently raised from the dead for reasons we may never know. Talia, I would like to point out that not 2 pages ago, and in dialogue within the same panel, you said yourself that you threw him in the Lazarus pit in the first place! From that pretentious waste of time and non-information, we cut to Jason and Roy on an airplane. So surprise, surprise, Roy is being annoying. I can't believe you're still mad at me because I slept with your girl. I don't think I have to explain what's wrong with that sentence. A flight attendant starts flirting with him, and Jason is kind enough to share his thoughts with us. She's cute. Fortunately for her, there is no way we'll ever cross paths again after today. She eventually gives him his number. Then we get this line. Look at you, Todd. You put the move in smooth.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
On the very next page, hold it! How did you get a limo? Where did Starfire get the clothing? And why does this scene need to exist? It just...
You are correct. It does not compute.
Then we get this stupid scene of Roy trying to buddy up to the both of them in the most annoying way possible. Then we follow that up with another narration box that should be a thought balloon. They are not growing on me. Not. Whew, okay, good. I'm not the only one who hates them. What a relief. Jason decides to head to his safe pad to get a few things of his when he's ambushed by a random obese woman named Susie Sue with some hired guns. I'll say this though, this scene comes straight the heck out of nowhere. Yes, it has a point later on, but for the time being, it is completely and totally random. There's no build up to it, and anyone reading this will be thoroughly confused by it for about 6 more issues, and even then they'll still be fairly confused, if they have an attention span any longer than a squirrel's. And I think that just about sums up this entire book. It's a book written for people with absolutely no attention span. If you can sit and focus on the elements of this thing for 10 seconds, then the whole thing falls apart. Anyway, Jason takes them out, gets his things, and we're immediately thrown into a scene with a helicopter where random Asian lady number 5 is telling us about just another thing that Jason managed to do in less than a year. Jason and Roy make the jump and... Okay, stop. Problem number I lost count. The frickin' narration boxes never shut up! This is literally the 3rd time we are getting a recap of Jason's origin, and it's only the 2nd issue. So in moving on, we hold the phone. All of that crap we just went through. That was a flashback? Yeah! It even ends in the exact same line as before. Finally, something to shoot. Other than the plane, every time indicator read as if it was going on at that moment, which indicated that the scene at the end of the previous issue was skipped over. But here's a better question for you. Why did you need to go over that in flashback? All of 2 important things even happened in that whole lead-up. Add a scene of Not Roy and Not Starfire confronting Jason about tagging along with him, and you could have just added this whole thing to the end of the last issue. Flashbacks are designed to provide new information, yes. But that new information is supposed to be significant. Otherwise, it's just wasting the reader's time. So, of course, a fight ensues. A fight that is carried out on 1 page, sloppily and unimpressively. Talk about taking out the trash. They weren't trash, Roy. They were warriors. They were teachers. They may have been the greatest people I've ever known. I'd like to point out that we as an audience have seen no indication of that, therefore we only have his word to go by. Because, you know, Jason is so likable and such a great guy. The comic ends with Jason praying or something and then telling his team that it's time to go and do what they do. I swear this comic is going to be the end of me, but at least this one only insulted my intelligence and not my fond memories of the post-crisis universe. Oh no. Alright, we're at number 3. I'll just say this. I rather like the cover this time. It's just the main characters fighting again, but this time the intrigue is added with the fact that they're fighting their younger selves. Immediately, you're forced to start asking questions, and you just get interested in what could possibly lead to this. Now, I like to try and remain optimistic, but let's just see how quick they ruin the only good choice they've made so far. Red Hood and the Outlaws in... No. Not gonna say it. You can't make me. The comic opens with Jason visiting some supposedly immortal kid. At least that's what he tells us in his narration captions. I can think of a few ways they could have done this later using actual storytelling, but that'd be silly. So blah blah blah, cryptic dialogue that we still don't understand, and then Roy decides to remind us 3 issues in that Starfire and Roy are with him. Because Scott Lobdell thinks his audience is a pack of idiots. Then again, people do willingly buy this stuff, so, I'm Jason Todd, or the Red Hood. I suppose I can give this thing some credit. The artwork is progressively getting better. Not much, but I'm trying to be as positive as I can here. Anyway, Jason needs to get in this little chamber, but the only way to gain access is for this kid to hold on to their most precious memories or something. Actually... Really, Corey? Don't you forget everything 5 minutes later? Just the unimportant stuff. Back to insulting my memories, huh? All those awesome stories that happened beforehand, they weren't important, huh? They meant nothing, huh? Dude, the grave you're digging for yourself is not deep enough. Keep at it. So they spend some time in an M.C. Escher painting, and then we get a scene of Moondragon's little brother peeking at Not Starfire's memories. So, what is her most cherished memory? Murdering one of her captors. I can't even talk about this any further. Next! More meaningless dialogue between our leads as they find some sort of blue light on an altar and... Do not take another step. I was trained in the art of war. This is a setup. You're concerned. That's adorable. Yeah, we've got it covered.
You two are just dumber than a bag of hammers.
Of course, Not Starfire turns out to be right in the end, and they get in a tussle with some sort of giant beast thing. And now we're on to Roy's memory. It's fighting Killer Croc on a rooftop. Not even kidding. And not only that, it's without any of his gear. He isn't fighting him as Speedy, just as Roy Harper. So you'd expect someone to come and save him, or for Croc to just shred him up, right? Nope. Killer Croc actually pieces together that Roy has a death wish, and gives him a speech telling him not to throw his life away. This is the same dude whose solution to everything is...
Hit him with a rock!
I'm sorry, but... no. Anyway, Jason manages to get what he was looking for, only to find out that it's a snow globe. And conveniently, at that moment, Not Starfire explodes out from the monster's stomach, yeah, she got eaten by the thing, and flies out with the boys. Those were unacceptable accommodations for a princess. You know, Starfire's ego in this is really inflated, huh? They return to the kid to get their memories back, and Jason tells them to keep his. So, here's a stupid question. Why? The very notion that he's refusing to take it back implies that he does still remember it. Letting this guy keep it isn't going to strike that memory from his mind. But whatever. Make of this last scene what you will. In a brief moment of clarity for this comic, there's actually a pretty tame scene of Jason as Robin, being forced to stay at the mansion due to his sickness. And rather than leave him with Alfred, Bruce decides to take the night off and spend time with him. It's supposed to be a touching scene, and I guess with Jason being, well, Jason, it makes sense that he'd want to forget, so fine. Points gained. The issue closes out there with a caption at the bottom. Next issue. The world considers them outlaws. We're about to see why. Spoilers, no we aren't. Halfway through this, people. Let's just go. The cover is... meh. Just the 3 of them fighting a dude that looks like Abomination with wings. The comic opens with Jason and Roy in some bar in a small Colorado town. Red Hood and the Outlaws, and enough with the song puns already! It wasn't funny the first 3 times. Guess what? It's still not funny. Stereotypical bar brute number 1 tries to get Jason to move, but Jason beat him and his friends up. All the while, Roy is narrating to us about how screwed up he is and... Wait a minute. My sponsor, wait... That's Killer Croc! Dude, how much time have you been spending around a very dangerous criminal who has in the past been known to devour people? So Jason's little brawl gets them brought downtown by the local sheriff, and we shift from a stupid narrative to a pretentious one. Not Starfire is hovering over the scene keeping watch. Essentially, she's recapping for us, despite the fact that all of 2 things have happened since this book began, thus insulting my intelligence again. Then she goes somewhere rather different. So I will watch and wait and wonder why a princess like me is so captivated by these 2 court jesters. Yeah, in this, Starfire is not only an ice queen, easier than a shape-matching toy, and as attentive as a goldfish, but she's also royally stuck up. Literally. Good freaking job. So she's suddenly attacked by the freak on the cover, and God! Enough with the stupid narration! I'm no professional, but narration is essentially addressing us, the reader. In other words, by going over all of this narration, you're telling. Dialogue between characters, however, is considered showing, because it is a part of their interaction and helps to develop them to one another, thus making interactions and dynamics between them more than their most basic components. Or do you just hate writing dialogues and decided to cram all this information into a narration because otherwise we'd be completely lost? I took the name of Crux because I am the human being willing to draw a line in the sand between the invading hordes of...
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Back at the station, Jason's managed to cuff the sheriff and starts going through her files. All I want is to go through your files for any red flags that will lead me to the Untitled. You're actually going to talk about this with someone you've never met and has literally no reason to believe a word you say. Sound plan. And why do you think they're here? This lady is taking what he's saying rather well. Oh, wait. They usually hide in positions of authority in order to make it easier to cover their tracks. Maybe the town mayor, a local doctor, or a cop. I'll take complete and total idiots for 200. So before Jason can be John Carpentered, Roy shows up in the nick of time shooting half a dozen arrows in the thing's head. You idiot, your steel-tipped arrows are but a petty annoyance. Lady... why are you speaking like that all of a sudden? You were speaking perfectly normal 5 seconds ago. Only copper can harm me. Freeze. So, the ultimate evil is weak to copper.
You were supposed to be one of the most powerful lanterns ever, but your ring is vulnerable to wood. So what happens if a guy comes at you with a pointy stick?
Same thing that happens to you if he paints it yellow.
So Roy blows the thing's face open, and no, it isn't dead yet, so I'm assuming this is like that last boss in any and every given RPG. Hard to kill, even when you exploit the weaknesses. Then we cut back to Crux with Not Starfire. Crux monologues his origin. Long, and I do mean long, story short, a Tamaranian cruiser accidentally crash-landed and killed his parents, so now he hates all aliens. I am not even kidding. So if it'd been just a normal old car accident, she would have hated all of humanity and tried to find some way to wipe us all out? What I'm trying to say is your motivation is stupid. So Not Starfire shuts him up and he flies off. From there, we're right back to the boys. Cryptic dialogue, blah blah blah, and we're leaving... Wait, leave? 2 years learning everything you knew from Batman and all you've got for me is leave? 2 years? You're actually going to sit there and tell me to my face that Jason has only been Robin for 2 years? Okay, now add to that the 1 year he spent with Nameless Evil Secret Society number 83, and the year between then and now, and Jason has been a superhero for all of 4 years. How old is he? Anyway, Crux lures Starfire to some sort of machine that is apparently Tamaranian technology he found. She's caught in the blast or whatever and plummets from the air. Jason and Roy see it, recognizing it as her energy signature somehow, so Roy is off to help. He doesn't ask me to stay. He doesn't need to. He's the Red Hood. I could make a drinking game out of all these pointless narration captions. Crux kneels at Not Starfire's side, boasting of how he stripped her of her powers, and then he leaves. Weren't you just going on about how much deader than dead she was going to be? Walk the walk, man! The comic closes out with Red Hood narrating to us that he gets ready to fight Holy Hannah! Well, not recovering from those nightmares for a while. On to issue 5.